Welcome to 10 Minutes. I'm Tony Scott. Today's show is sponsored by Hattrick Sports in St. Louis Park. Hattrick has 2 3-on-3 rinks and a great training area run by YHH staff writer Andy Blaylock. Today we will have Bill Dahl from Hattrick in studio to talk a little bit about his spring and summer leagues, and I'm guessing we'll talk a little hockey as well. But before Bill joins us, let's get to the rink and talk about what happened last week around the state. At the high school level, Lakeville North won their Hockey Day clash with Duluth East. Ryan Paling has been a man amongst boys this year. Saturday on the big stage, he showed it in spades, scoring 1 goal and adding 2 assists in their 3-2 win. And Grand Rapids beat number 2 Holy Family outside as well, beating the Fire at Grusendorf Park on the southwest side of Grand Rapids. Alex Adams was the man, scoring 3 goals for the Thunderhawks. The biggest story of the week was the Minnetonka Bantam AA visit to Shattuck last Saturday. Both teams were number 1 in our staff rankings. The Sabres are number 1 in our Tier 1 USA rankings, and the Skippers were number 1 in both our computerized now rankings and our staff rankings. Historically, top Minnesota teams don't fare as well against any Shattuck Bantam teams, especially ones that are as dominant as the Sabres have been this year. Earlier this year, Shattuck beat number 2 Edina by a large margin, and after the Skippers lost to Blaine last weekend, many in the association world expected Tonka to see the same fate. It was a great game. Both teams are loaded with skilled players up front and on the blue line. The game ended in a 3-3 tie, and the Skippers won in a shootout after Tonka goalie John Howe stopped Shattuck stars Cam York and Grant Silanoff, and both Bobby Brink and Jack Bayless scored for the Skippers. In other Bantam news, Luke Williams scored the game-winning goal to lead Sibley to a 4-3 win over Brainerd Sunday, helping them win the St. Cloud playoff primer. The Sibley win erased a big game by Brainerd's Will Lundstrom, who had 2 goals and assists for the Warriors. Lots of girls action last weekend to talk about. In girls U15 action, number 1 Edina won the Eden Prairie Prelude, beating Minnetonka for the second time in the same week, this time 3-2. Hard to conceive anyone except the Hornets winning state this year at the 15s. Number 4 Minnetonka won the U12 Skate for the Roses in Stillwater, scoring 2 late goals to beat the host Ponies Sunday. And how about Bloomington's U10A team? They won the Cupid Classic. Julia Larson scores the game-winning goal with 35 seconds left to beat the number 7 Apple Valley Burnsville team. The Bandits scored 3 in the final 90 seconds to claim some home tourney hardware. And congrats to the 2 YHH Squirtacular runner-ups. Last weekend, both won the Moose Goheen tournament. Number 2 Woodbury beat Hermantown 2-1 in a late-night affair to claim the A's, and Chaskatchan Purple took the Squirt Bees. All right, we're joined today with Bill Dahl, a third-timer on the show. First time we met at the rink over at Hattrick. Last year you were on the stool, now you're in the full-on sports desk.
Yeah, it's quite amazing, the transformation.
We are definitely growing, that's for sure. All right, so let's talk about your leagues, your summer leagues. Let's talk about the facility and all those things. First of all, the facility, 2 rinks. You got a great training facility. You have Andy Blaylock there running the competitive edge stuff there for you, which takes a little bit of load off of you, and you can focus on the leagues and running a good facility.
Yep, Andy does a great job with his trainings, with his camps, his clinics. We also have Perfect World Training, which is a group that does mainly weights and kind of personal training stuff too. A bunch of NHL guys in the summer, high-end college players and high school players will work out there with those guys as well.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so that's been a great addition to the Hattrick Sports community, if you will.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about the summer leagues.
Absolutely.
There's lots of different values to it. It's a great league for kids from all over the Western and Minneapolis area that they can come in and play.
Yep, so this is our 8th season running 3-on-3 leagues. We run leagues from mini mites, if you want to call them that, like kind of your first graders and below, all the way through the Bantam level. And we do have a high school girls division.
Yep.
And one of the things that I've kind of figured out over the years is our mite division, we have it separated into 3 groups because most associations, mite groups are done by age in 4 levels. And so we make sure that we're trying to kind of balance that competition. So that especially
to get an even game. You don't want to go win 10-1. You want to lose 10-1 either.
It's about fun, and the kids will learn a lot just by playing the game. But things in the summer, I've always felt, even when I was a kid, they need to be fun. And it's no fun if you're getting beat by a lot, or no fun if you're beating teams by a lot. So we are very aware and keep that balance of competition, as well with the mites. There's a size difference, and I know, all of our leagues are non-checking leagues, but
Still size matters,
yes,
right?
some of these kids, their way of stopping sometimes is running into something, and that might be another kid. So we certainly want to make sure that that's addressed. And there are times where we'll juggle the level of play where teams are at, just to make sure that it's fair and it's safe.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the league itself.
Yeah.
You have a first half and a second half, right?
Yep. So to our season is I'm sure what they're referring to, the sessions, and again, we do that for two different reasons: to balance competition midway through. So if a team shows up that's either better than the others or not as good as the others,
or better than they anticipated, or not as good as they anticipated, because you don't know. We get this kid from Elk River, and all of a sudden it's little Gretzky, right?
Well, exactly, and again, it is for everybody's benefit there. So there's a lot of flexibility in that, and that's something we adjust kind of midstream. And as well, since we do have 2 sheets of ice, I'm very flexible with our scheduling. What I encourage teams to do is, if they have a conflict, I want to make sure that teams are able to do the summer activities that are traditional summer activities, whether it's baseball, lacrosse,
vacation,
vacations,
another good activity,
well,
right?
And I think sometimes, they feel overloaded, and I want this to be a complement to anything that they're doing, especially hockey-wise. Because
Which is my next question, was that all these kids, they train, they do all these, they go to competitive edge, they do all these other training. This is a place where they kind of just go work on things, or they can just have some fun.
It's fun, and really that's what it's meant to be. It's pond hockey inside in the summer. It's, we average about a game every 5 or 6 days, so it's a good way for them to keep their skates on. It's games. It's not practices. I think the kids during the winter, and I know my own kids were like this, is you can be drilled to death. We all know that it's very important. The basics and the fundamentals are what make this game great. But in order to kind of let loose sometimes, they need to have this fun. And again, from a compliment to some of the other hockey trainings they might do, this is just a way for them to do something a little bit more that they can have a good time doing.
So how does somebody, you're watching the show right now,
Sure.
How does a dad, how does a coach gather a team? How do they get in touch with you?
Great. Well, there's a couple of ways. Our website is a great place to get some general information. And on the website at hattricksports.net, you can also find my contact information, where typically teams come as a team. So a team of 12 is typically what a whole team would consist of. There are times where teams are more than 12. I work with those groups on how to make the best of more kids. And there are times where groups want to come in a little less so that they get more ice time. There are times where I have space for single players, although it's
Slide them
tough.
into teams, yeah.
It's tough to guarantee them a spot, because if teams are full, I can't really squeeze them in on a team that is already full. So I've always said, ask around to the players on your team, the parents on your team, and sometimes small groups are easier to place, 4, 5, 6 kids, where you can combine 2 of those and make a team out of it.
You guys provide jerseys.
Provide
no
jerseys.
weekends. They don't play on the weekend.
Absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up. That, to me, is one of the things that I was adamant about when I first started the league, was to keep weekends free. During the school year, because we do start our league just after spring break, April 4th, so there should be no conflicts with vacations and such. Right up until the end of school, we do use that weekend right after school in June as one of our last weekend of scheduling games. But after that, we do not schedule games on Fridays, Saturdays, and on Sundays. Now, I say Sundays is off for the mites, but anybody older than mites, the earliest we would ever schedule a game is 4:45 in the afternoon.
People come back from the cabin or get done with their baseball or cross tournaments and play some games.
We'll run 4 games that night, and that's really all you're going to see on the weekend. So I like to keep the weekends free personally for myself, and that's what summers are supposed to be.
You have a life?
I do.
All right, let's talk about your life.
Right.
You got 3 hockey players. Start with Stevens playing JV this year for the Hornets, Edina Hornets.
He is.
How's that season going? That's going to be wrapping up soon. I have a JV player too. I know it's over this Saturday. Is it over for the Hornets too?
It's kind of strange. I was talking with him yesterday about it. It's like, when it ends, it ends. There's no
there's no playoffs.
No,
It's a JV is a phenomenon that we could host an entire show about.
Absolutely. So he's had, frankly, a very good year coming out of an injury that kept him off of the ice for half of his Bantam AA season and then most of basically all of last summer. So he's had to work through. He's
a heck of a baseball player if you haven't seen it. It's a treat to watch.
Well,
I don't like to watch him too much because we're playing against them, and it's not as fun to watch.
So, in fact, that's already on the horizon. They've been indoors already working on a bunch of baseball stuff. So he's had a very good year. It's a great year for him coming out of injury. So it's brought him confidence and such.
All right, Sophia's team, we announced earlier in the show, they won. You told me off air, they've only lost once to a Minnesota team. They lost to the Chicago Young Americans up in the Duluth Icebreaker, and they lost to one of my favorite teams, the North Wright County Hawks, which is amazing. They're like all those girls are first-year players.
Well, they're really a talented team.
And they're really good. So it's funny that they were the only team that beat you.
Well, and I had an opportunity to see them play this weekend. The girls were successful. We've played Minnetonka twice in the last week or so.
4-0.
Yeah, or
2-0. I know 3-2 is the championship.
3-2 championship game was a phenomenal game, back and forth, some great hockey, and it's fun to see. To me personally, watching the girls' game at that level, it is a very fast-paced, physical game.
Yeah, no checking, right?
No.
I love that.
I love that too. No checking, but I'll tell you what, the girls play a better physical game without checking, than I've seen a lot of these boys play.
Well, I would argue my daughter left the game because of concussions, and I argue that the referee sees the ponytail, and there's no way that there was actually a check.
Well,
and I'm like, yes, it was a check. That'd be a 2 and 10 in Pee Wee AA's, but for some reason it's not a check. It's kind of weird.
So it is fun because again, like I say, I coach a Pee Wee team.
Yeah, well, that's the next.
And Pee Wee's is a non-checking game, but I'll tell you what, the girls play a non-checking game much more physical than the boys do, and the boys could learn something from that.
But I think part of the reason it's the ponytail.
They
can get away with a lot more. I'm not ripping on the boys. They can get away with more at the girl level than they do at the boys.
My daughter will clean out in front of the net. She's a defenseman, and she does it with a smile from ear to ear. And you think to yourself, how could a cute little girl with a ponytail jam you out in front of them?
Oh, they do.
They do.
And that's a compliment to the girls.
Oh, absolutely.
Not a slam. And it's kind of a slam on the refs because it's like they see it and they're like, oh, that can't be a penalty.
Well, I tell you what, they are the Edina U15A team is a talented group. They're fun to watch. They're very well coached, and they've been coached that way kind of through the system. So they're disciplined. They're smart. They move the puck really well, and I think that's one of the advantages they have as a team.
Now, the final team we're talking about isn't as well coached, I would assume. I wouldn't assume, right? You're the head coach of the Pee Wee B White team in Edina.
I am.
And I think they're number 2 in the state behind Osseo Maple Grove.
And rightfully so. Osseo Maple Grove's tough. We've faced them 3 times, and in fact, once in our own tournament.
Yep.
They beat us twice that weekend, and they are tough.
They are your nemesis.
They are my nemesis.
But the green team beat Osseo Maple Grove in their own tournament. So the playoffs are going to be a blast. Your playoffs start this week, right?
We start next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday?
I believe. Yep.
It's hard to keep track of all of the different playoffs, when they start, when they don't start. But it should be an exciting few weeks for all 3 teams. Well, actually, not as much for Steven's team, but for Sophia's team and AJ's team, it should be a great run.
Well, it's interesting. It's this time of year where you kind of don't want things to end, but we're kind of wrapping things up. And with all of the district tournaments and all of the regional tournaments coming up.
It's a blast.
It is.
I can't wait.
It's the best time of year for hockey.
I can't wait. I've been doing the calendar because there's so much to cover. We're covering more high school this year. The day the high school regionals or sectionals end is when the regional boys youth starts and girls youth start. I'm like, it's going to be like 10 straight days of coverage. It's going to be a blast. I can't wait. I can't wait. It's going to be really fun 8 days for me. And then the state tournament's fun, but the regionals is when everybody's playing, and once the state hits, it's kind of over for everybody but 8.
Yeah.
So it's not as much, there's not as much demand on watching, where the districts and the regionals the youth are a blast.
Again, it's the best time of year. You'll have upsets. You'll have other things that will kind of shake out.
Best.
Always good storylines.
The upsets are the best. All right. Let's get you on the teleprompter here in a second. I'm going to go now prospects. You're going to do the trivia. All right, a pair of 2020 Now prospects showed why they're two of the best 8th graders in the state. Clay Hannes and Bobby Brink were remarkable Saturday night in Minnetonka's game with Shattuck. Hannes scored a power play goal, and Brink had a goal in a shootout. 2019 prospect Trevor Janicki has quietly had a great year. He has 26 points in 24 games, 11 goals and 15 assists. One of those came on a good buddy last week, a fellow Now prospect, Brendan Boynton from Champlain Park last week. Boynton is playing really well in the nets for the Rebels so far this year. He's faced 40 or more shots 6 times this year and has still maintained a 90% save percentage. 2018 prospect Ben Ward had 2 goals and assists Saturday night for Mammal last week, including a game-winning goal for the Moose in their win over St. Francis. The sophomore has 9 points in his last 4 games. I think we could write an entire show on Nicky Lieberman. The junior defenseman has been the scoring machine for Eden Prairie the last couple weeks. He has 6 goals in their last 6 games. All right, Bill, let's hear it.
All right, Tommy Chicago's trivia. Benilde St. Margaret's is the #1 team in the state, and they are undefeated this year. Last year, Lakeville North had a perfect season. When was the last time a boys' high school team had 0 losses in the winner's circle? Here's a hint. It was not my 1987 Benilde St. Margaret's team. If you know the answer, send an email to youthhockeyhub@gmail.com. The first one to get the email to us with the correct answer wins a $25 gift card to Tommy's.
All right, time to hand out some game pucks. Your turn.
My puck. I am awarding my puck to Jack Dahl. He is my nephew, but he is also a mini-mite with the Armstrong Cooper Youth Hockey Association. I had an opportunity to attend some of his practices over the past couple of weeks, and I'll tell you what, they're doing a great program at.
They're very fired up.
They are
very fired up. I love it.
I watched their practices with their ADM model, and they do a great job. And I guess any association that can get a kid to wear his mouth guard around the house constantly and carry a hockey stick, you gotta love it. So Jack Dahl, this is the game puck for you.
All right, good job, Jack. All right, my game puck goes back to the Minnetonka Skippers. I've mentioned them a plethora of times in this broadcast already. On the eve of Minnesota hockey handing out Tier 1 hockey for 14 and 15-year-olds, it was quite ironic that they would go down and beat Shattuck St. Mary's in a shootout, namely, but they did compete with the best Tier 1 team in the state. It's ironic because here's a community-based team. We've been preaching community-based hockey all this time, and they go down and compete with the #1 team, and now the Minnesota Hockey hands out a Tier 1 program for it. Why do we need a Tier 1 program for anything when we have great community-based hockey here in Minnesota? So game puck goes out to Coach Murph and Avi and the guys at Minnetonka and all the players there. Hats off to you guys. Game puck to you. Bill, thanks for joining me again on the show. It was fun.
Absolutely.
For Bill Dahl, I'm Tony Scott. Thank you for tuning in.